So I'm here on Alfred Street in Bolton, and this was the childhood home of Fred Dibnah. So Fred grew up in number 8 Alfred Street, which is this one just here, and as you can see just in the distance there is the chimney that he worked on, so the one that sticks up above the rest. We're going to have a little look around the back, so we'll have a little walk down and we'll show you the chimney from the back. So Fred grew up in this home and the chimney came into disrepair, and Fred decided that he was going to rebuild it. I think with help from his brother, and it was one of his first projects that he liked to work on to really hone his skills at height. So from the back of the house you can see it's quite a show. He really went for it, didn't hold back in terms of his design, didn't hold back in terms of the structure as well. So it's still there, it's a well-known feature in the Bolton area. This is Fred Dibnah's chimney on 8 Alfred Street in Bolton. So this row of terraces, this little cobbled path at the back was where Fred grew up. Unfortunately now a lot of the terrace streets have knocked down and there's an industrial estate at the back of where Fred lives. And you can see there's a lot of wasteland, a lot of abandoned areas, which I would imagine would be a horrible sight for Fred to see. So there is his chimney that he created, and if we just walk up this cobbled street you'll be able to really see why Fred Dibnah was so enthusiastic about climbing chimneys. So if you grew up in this area, and just in the distance there you can see a chimney, one of the old mill industrial chimneys. So Fred Dibnah grew up being able to see a chimney from his family home. So these types of chimneys were all around Bolton at this time. So Fred would have grown up seeing many of them all around his local area, and that's what helped to really build that fascination with chimneys. So there is Fred Dibnah's chimney on his family home. What we're going to do is we're going to have an explore around Bolton and show you some of the key sites that Fred was involved with, that he worked on, or areas he explored when he was younger. So this is Fred Dibnah's house. So we saw before how he grew up in Alfred Street, and this was the house that he moved into, that he extended and eventually lived until his death. You can see how grand the chimneys are, as expected from Fred, and the lightning conductor at the top of the house. So what we're going to do, it used to be a heritage centre, and unfortunately no longer is, but we're going to have a little look from here. We'll have a little closer look at the house as well, and this is where Fred lived out his days. We'll have a look at the back if we can, and you can see that Fred obviously also had his workshop where he built the engines, and also where he had his mine shaft which he was working on right up until his death. So we're going to explore a bit more. There are actually some people in the back that are working in the workshops. I'm not sure exactly what it's used for now, but it was at some point a heritage centre. Unfortunately they decided to sell off all of Fred's belongings and close the heritage centre, which was a great shame. Never got the chance to visit and would have loved to, but this is Fred's house. It has been up for sale a number of occasions. I think it may even still potentially be up for sale. For some reason they've struggled to sell it, and maybe that is the price that they're asking for it, but also I suppose lots of Fred's quirks may not be to everybody's taste. So this is Fred's house. We'll have a little closer look. So you can see some of Fred's quirks on the house, such as on the door. Look at the ironwork. Very dramatic ironwork on the door, which would have been one of Fred's touches. The very elaborate hinges, Victorian style, and we can see the chimney as well. Very large chimney with some very dramatic chimney pots as well. So the original house, built in 1859, but actually had a lot of extensions and a lot of work done to it over the years, some of which Fred built himself. So we may not be able to see it, but there was an extension around the back which Fred added to. And you can just see in the background there Fred's chimney, which is connected to some of his workshops and also to part of the mine shaft that he started digging without planning permission, from which he carried on and continued to dig in the garden of his home. And you can see on the plaque here telling us all about Fred Dibnah, Bolton steeplejack. Okay, so you can see the finials that Fred put on and the lightning conductor on this chimney that was built as part of Fred's extension. And you can see there. So you can see there the extension was completed in 1984 when Fred finished building it, and you can see Fred's workshops at the back. So you can see all of the workshops that Fred had in the back of the property, and also the chimney off the top of one of the workshops. What we're going to do, we're going to go over to our next destination and we're going to have a look at the final resting place of Fred Dibnah. So I'm now at the Barrow Bridge chimney, and this is the chimney that Fred Dibnah climbed when he was a teenager as part of a bet. He bet one of his mates that he could climb it. It is 262 foot high. You can see it goes right through the tree line, right up there. You can see some trees growing out the side of it. You can see some of the bracing that's been put on the top as well. So, as a teenager, Fred Dibnah climbed this huge tower, 262 foot high, as part of a bet for which he won 10 shillings. I believe this is what gave Fred the drive to be obsessed with chimneys, to be obsessed with repairing them, going to the top of them. You can see the colossal size of this chimney. So we'll have a little look around, see if we can find any remnants of Fred climbing this as a teenager, but also he climbed and repaired it later on in his life. So the Boroughbridge chimney still shows some of the marks of Fred Dibnah. You can see here. So Fred's mark there from 1996 when he repaired the chimney, and you can actually still see some of the pegs that he put in to rope his ladders to. So there's one there, and you can actually see them all the way up the chimney. You'll be able to pick them out all the way up there, the little bit sticking out, all the pegs that go all the way up there. There's one just there. So when Fred climbed this Boroughbridge chimney in his teens, he actually took 2 Union flags to the top and set them at the top of the tower, top of the chimney, so that he could prove that he had actually climbed the chimney. That was a great feat to climb up there. It's such a height. Again, around this way, there would have been another plaque there, another Fred Dibnah plaque there. Unfortunately, it looks like somebody has prized that one off and stolen it. And then you can also see some more of the pegs that he would have used to climb the chimney on the side. Do you think you could climb this chimney? "262 feet. Could you climb it?" So this is the Tongue Cemetery, and this is where Fred Dibnah's final resting place was. So what we're going to do now is have a little look for Fred Dibnah's final resting place, have a look at his grave and pay our respects to one of Bolton's most living legends, really. So here we are in Tongue Cemetery in Bolton, only a stone's throw away from Fred's house, and we're here to pay our respects to Fred Dibnah and his final resting place. You can see Fred's modest grave. People have left a bottle of Guinness, some tools to commemorate Fred's final resting place. So 1938 to 2004. Very much loved Fred Dibnah, the Bolton hero. He might be a little bit disappointed because his actual grave looks like it's leaning slightly, and for a man, an engineer, he might be a bit disappointed in how it's been set in the landscape, although it is on a slope, so it may not be the fault of the grave diggers or the people that set the stone, but it is slightly wonky. Looks like it's dropped slightly, but I'm sure Fred will sort that out. But there he is, Fred's final resting place. and some of the tools that he's been left to take with him into the afterlife. I'll end this video here. He's one of my heroes, and the same for many more. So rest in peace, Fred.